I sat in that conference room one last time, watching faces I had known for 11 years twist into smirks and suppressed laughter. They called it a midlife crisis, even though I was only 36. Marcus from sales had started a betting pool right there in the break room, scribbling numbers on a whiteboard. 3 months he had written next to his name. Jennifer from accounting chose 6. Tom from the warehouse went bold with a year. The pot sat at $240. Not one person bet on me succeeding. I did not argue. I did not defend myself. I just smiled, picked up my cardboard box and walked out the door. But they had no idea what I had been preparing for. Before I tell you how it all went down, I want to know, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments, and if you have ever been underestimated at work, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want to hear how the doubters became my employees. Trust me, the next part gets interesting. I had spent 11 years at Streamline Logistics in Dallas, Texas. Started as the lowest guy on the totem pole, worked my way up to operations manager. Every single day felt the same. 5 in the morning alarm, 45-minute commute through traffic that made my jaw clench. Then 10 hours solving shipping problems, dealing with customer complaints, watching the clock. I would get home around 7 completely drained, barely able to play with my kids before they went to bed. My wife Sarah worked as a nurse, pulling long shifts at the hospital. We had 2 kids, Emma, who was 8, and Jake, who was 5. We lived in a modest house in the suburbs with 23 years left on the mortgage. My salary was $78,000 a year, enough to get by but never enough to get ahead. Every month felt like treading water. The real frustration was not the money. It was watching younger guys get promoted over me. It was pitching ideas to improve our systems and having them ignored. Our CEO, David Brennan, never listened to anyone below director level. We were just worker bees to him. I could see so many ways to make things better, but nobody cared what an operations manager thought. Then one night, everything changed. I came home late, exhausted as usual. Jake was still awake, sitting on the stairs in his dinosaur pajamas. He looked up at me with those big brown eyes and asked, "Daddy, why do you look so tired all the time?" That question hit me like a truck. My 5-year-old son could see what I had been trying to ignore. I was dying inside day by day, and it showed. That is when I started really looking at Streamline Logistics from the outside. The company had serious problems. Our software system was from 2008. Customer service was terrible because we were understaffed and overworked. We kept losing smaller clients because we could not offer them flexibility. David refused to invest in upgrades. He just wanted to squeeze every dollar out of the current model. I started researching late at night, after Sarah and the kids went to sleep. I read books about logistics and supply chain management. I took online courses about entrepreneurship. I learned about automation software that could cut operational costs in half. The more I learned, the clearer it became. There was a huge gap in the market for a logistics company that actually cared about small businesses. My idea was simple: create a company focused on small to medium clients, use modern technology to keep costs low, provide personalized, flexible service. I would call it Precision Routes. For 3 years I saved every dollar I could. Brown bag lunches, no new clothes. We cut our cable and streaming services. Sarah never complained, even though I know she wondered what I was planning. I saved $32,000. I reconnected with an old college friend named Kevin. He had gone into IT and was brilliant with software. When I told him my idea, his eyes lit up. He said he could build the routing system we would need, and he wanted in. Kevin offered to invest $20,000 and handle all the technology. We had a plan. The day I walked into David Brennan's office to quit, my hands were shaking. He barely looked up from his computer when I handed him my resignation letter. When he finally read it, he laughed. Actually laughed. "You are doing what?" he said. "Starting your own logistics company." With what experience? What capital? I told him I had both. He laughed again. "This is the dumbest thing I have ever heard. You will be broke in 3 months." The news spread through the office within an hour. Marcus cornered me at my desk. "Man, you are having a midlife crisis. You are only 36. Jennifer stopped by, shaking her head. "You have a mortgage and 2 kids. This is insane." By lunch, they had started the betting pool. I watched them gather around the whiteboard in the break room, writing down their predictions. Marcus put down 3 months. "He will be begging for his job back by Christmas," he announced to everyone. Jennifer went with 6 months. Tom played it safer with 1 year. The pot grew to $240. Nobody, not one single person, bet on me making it. On my last day, David called me into his office. "When you fail," he said, leaning back in his chair with his hands behind his head, "do not come crawling back. We do not rehire quitters." Marcus whispered loud enough for the whole floor to hear as I packed my desk. "See you at the unemployment office." I carried that box out to my car, set it in the trunk, and sat in the driver's seat for 10 minutes. Part of me wondered if they were right. Was I crazy? Was I throwing away everything for a fantasy? Then I thought about Jake's question. About spending the next 20 years in that building, getting more tired, more bitter, more invisible. I started the engine and drove away. The first month was exciting. Kevin and I rented a tiny office in East Dallas, just 800 square feet. We registered, the business got our licenses, and insurance bought 2 used vans. We spent our days calling potential clients and our nights building the software system. Everything cost more than we had budgeted. Insurance alone was twice what I had estimated. Our first client was a small bakery that needed daily deliveries to 3 locations. The contract was worth $300 a month. I treated that bakery owner like she was Amazon. I learned her schedule, her preferences, her concerns. When we made our first successful delivery, I felt more proud than I had in 11 years at Streamline. But $300 a month does not pay 2 salaries or rent or insurance or gas. By month 3, we had added only 2 more small clients. Our total monthly revenue was $800. Our monthly expenses were $4,200. I was bleeding my savings dry. Sarah picked up extra shifts at the hospital. We stopped going out to eat. We canceled Emma's gymnastics classes. We told the kids we were saving up for something special, but I saw the worry in Sarah's eyes every time she checked our bank account. When Marcus called me to ask how my big business was going, I could hear the smugness in his voice. "Heard your client list is pretty short. How is that working out?" Jennifer sent me a text message that night. "My bet is looking good. 3 months down, 3 to go." I stared at that message for a long time. Then I deleted it and got back to work. Months 4 through 8 were brutal. I called hundreds of small businesses. Most of them already had logistics providers. Many of them told me I was too small, too new, too risky. "We need someone established," they would say. I heard that phrase in my sleep. Then I found out David Brennan was actively sabotaging me. A potential client mentioned that my former employer had called to warn them about me. David was telling people I was desperate, unreliable, that I did not know what I was doing. He was trying to destroy me before I could even get started. By month 6, my savings were down to $5,000. Kevin and I could not both take salaries. We flipped a coin each month to see who got paid. I lost 3 times in a row. I had to sell my Honda Accord, the first new car I had ever owned, and started driving Sarah's old Camry. We had planned a family vacation to the beach that summer. I had to tell Emma and Jake we could not go. Emma cried. Jake just nodded, like he understood we were struggling, even though he was only 6. Sarah and I had our first real fight about money. Not yelling, but worse. Quiet, scared voices in our bedroom after the kids were asleep. "Milton, I believe in you," she said, her voice cracking. "But we need to be realistic. Can we survive another 6 months like this?" I did not have an answer. Then, in June, something shifted. The owner of a small coffee shop chain gave us a shot. 3 locations deliveries 5 days a week, $1,200 a month. She told me, "I am giving you a chance because you actually listened to what I needed. The big companies do not care about small guys like us." That contract saved us. It gave us just enough credibility to land a few more clients. A flower shop, 2 family-owned restaurants, a yoga studio that needed equipment deliveries. By July, we were bringing in $4,300 a month. Still not enough to pay both Kevin and me, but we were not drowning anymore. September through December tested everything. Marcus organized a happy hour and invited everyone from Streamline except me. I heard about it from a friend who still worked there. Marcus apparently spent the whole night talking about that idiot who quit. He said, "Remember that guy? Yeah, still waiting for his company to take off." Oh, wait, it would not. I saw their social media posts. Jennifer with her new BMW. Tom posting photos from Hawaii. Marcus checking in at expensive steakhouses. Meanwhile, I was eating peanut butter sandwiches at my 800-square-foot office, trying to figure out how to make payroll. In October, we lost our biggest client. They went back to Streamline because David had slashed his prices specifically to win them back. He was willing to lose money just to hurt me. Our revenue dropped to $3,200. I sat in my car that night in a parking lot, seriously considering giving up. But then I remembered David's words. "Do not come crawling back." And Marcus saying, "See you at the unemployment office." I decided right there that I would rather fail completely than give them that satisfaction. If I was going down, I was going down swinging. Sarah sat me down in December. "Can we make it another 6 months?" she asked. I looked at our finances. We had $42,000 in total revenue for the year. We had lost $31,000. On paper, we were failing, but I could see something in the numbers that others could not. Our customer retention was 100%. Every client who tried us stayed with us. That meant we were doing something right. Marcus and Jennifer extended their bet. "Let us make it 2 years, I heard they said. No way he lasts longer than that." January of year 2 changed everything. Kevin finished the automated routing software. What used to take me 2 hours of planning now took 15 minutes. Our operational costs dropped by 32% overnight. Suddenly, we could handle more clients with the same resources. Our existing clients noticed the improvement immediately. The coffee shop owner started referring us to other small business owners. Word of mouth is powerful in the small business community. People talk. By March, we had 12 clients and monthly revenue of $6,800. Then we got the call that changed everything. A medical supply distributor reached out. They had been using Streamline Logistics and were furious about repeated late deliveries and poor customer service. They wanted to try us. The contract was worth $7,500 a month. I had to read the email 3 times to believe it was real. We hired our first employee, Rachel, a 29-year-old former UPS driver with incredible customer service skills. $3,200 a month salary. Then we bought 2 Ford Transit vans, used but reliable, and put our Precision Routes logo on the sides. Driving those vans around Dallas felt like putting flags in the ground. The revenue kept climbing. $13,000 in April, $18,000 in May, $24,000 in June. For the first time in 18 months, we made a profit, $5,000. I took Sarah and the kids to dinner at a nice restaurant. Emma ordered the most expensive thing on the menu, mac and cheese, and I did not even blink. I paid Kevin back his initial investment. I bought back a Honda Accord, not new, but newer. We took the family to Austin for a weekend. Watching my kids run around the hotel pool laughing, I realized how close I had come to losing everything. But we had not just survived. We were building something real. Marcus heard through the grapevine that Precision Routes was growing. He called a few of our clients pretending to do market research, trying to figure out what was happening. The betting pool was still active, but people had stopped talking about it. Nobody wanted to admit they might be wrong. By month 20, Streamline Logistics was in trouble. They had lost dozens of small clients, many of them to us. David Brennan still refused to invest in technology. He wanted to maximize short-term profits instead of building for the future. Employee morale was terrible. They had not gotten raises in 3 years. The old software system kept causing expensive mistakes. We kept growing. 3 more drivers, a customer service manager, a logistics coordinator. We moved into a new office, 2,400 square feet. Professional, real. In December of year 2, our monthly revenue hit $42,000 with a profit margin of $13,000. We were not just surviving anymore, we were thriving. Then, a mid-sized e-commerce company approached us. They wanted to outsource all their logistics. They had been using Streamline, but were fed up with the service. The potential contract was $200,000 a year. I spent 2 weeks preparing the proposal, making sure every detail was perfect. The pitch meeting was in their downtown office. I walked in with Kevin, both of us in suits we had bought specifically for this meeting. I presented our technology, our track record, our customer retention rate. They asked tough questions. I had answers for all of them. At the end, the CEO shook my hand and said, "We are going with you. When can you start?" I signed a 3-year contract worth $600,000 total. Precision Routes was now projected to do $550,000 in revenue the following year. We had gone from a joke to a legitimate player in the Dallas logistics market. We had 5-star reviews on Google. Clients were calling us instead of us chasing them. That is when Tom called me. Tom, who had bet I would fail within a year. "Milton, man, I need to tell you something," he said. His voice was quiet, almost embarrassed. "Brennan is selling the company. Streamline is falling apart. We lost 35% of our clients. The place is toxic now. Half the good people have quit, and he is looking for a buyer." I sat with that information for a week. Streamline had infrastructure we did not have. A large warehouse, more equipment, established relationships with bigger clients, even if those relationships were deteriorating. The brand name still meant something, but the management was terrible, and the technology was non-existent. Then the idea hit me. What if I bought Streamline, combined it with Precision Routes? We would dominate the small to medium business logistics market in Dallas. I could fix everything that was broken about Streamline using the systems we had built. It was audacious, maybe crazy. But I had learned something over the past 2 years. Crazy ideas work if you are willing to do the work. Streamline was valued at $1,200,000 on paper. But with the current state of the company, that was fantasy. I offered $800,000. David rejected it immediately. So I did my homework. I documented every client they had lost. I tracked their declining revenue. I showed him the employee reviews on Glassdoor. I laid out exactly how much value his company was losing every single month. "You can take my offer now," I told him, "or you can watch the value drop even more and get less in 6 months. Your choice." 3 weeks later, David called. $750,000. Final offer. I took it. I got a business loan for $500,000 from the bank. This time, I had collateral and a proven track record. Kevin invested another $100,000. Sarah and I took out $150,000 in home equity. It was terrifying, but we were all in. The day I signed the papers was surreal. Downtown Dallas law office on the 40th floor. David Brennan sat across from me, looking older and more tired than I remembered. We signed the documents. Money transferred. The company was mine. As we shook hands, David said quietly, "I underestimated you." I just nodded. "Yes, you did." My first day as owner of Streamline Logistics, I walked into that building as the CEO, not as an operations manager who got ignored, as the owner. I called an all-staff meeting. 53 people filed into the large conference room. Many of them had been there when I quit 2 years earlier. Their faces showed shock, confusion, some fear. Marcus sat in the back, his face pale. Jennifer was in the 3rd row, staring at me like I was a ghost. I stood at the front of the room and pulled out a piece of paper from my jacket pocket. The old betting pool list. Someone had saved it and left it in a storage box. $240. All those names and their predicted failure dates. "I know many of you doubted me," I said, keeping my voice calm. "Some of you bet money on my failure. I found this in storage." I held up the paper. $240. You all lost. I was not gloating, just stating a fact. I am merging Streamline with Precision Routes. We are keeping the jobs of everyone who wants to stay. But things are going to change. Customer first, technology enabled, respect for everyone. If you cannot adapt, you are free to leave. That night, I updated my LinkedIn. Excited to announce the acquisition of Streamline Logistics by Precision Routes. New chapter begins. I attached a photo from the signing. Within an hour, hundreds of people saw it. Marcus, Jennifer, David, and everyone else in my network got the notification. The reactions poured in. Congratulations from former clients. Respect from other business owners. Marcus unfriended me. Jennifer sent a private message. I owe you an apology. I was wrong about you. Tom commented publicly. You proved us all wrong. Nothing but respect. The next 3 months were not easy. Merging two companies never is. We had to integrate the technology systems, retrain staff, change the culture. Some people could not handle it. Marcus quit 2 weeks in. He told me, I cannot work for you. I understood. Good luck, I said, and meant it. He was unemployed for 4 months after that. Jennifer stayed. She came to my office privately and apologized. I was wrong, and I am sorry, she said. You taught me to never underestimate anyone. I gave her a second chance. She became one of our best employees, completely transformed her attitude. Tom got promoted to operations director. He had been the first to reach back out, and that loyalty meant everything. Life at home changed too. Emma and Jake were proud of their dad now. We finally took that trip to Disneyland 3 years later than planned, but so much more meaningful. Sarah told me one night, I never doubted you, but I was scared. You proved that fear wrong. Kevin became our CTO. Without him, none of it would have worked. Our college friendship had turned into an unbreakable partnership. I sometimes stood in the CEO office, the same office where David had laughed at my resignation, and thought about the man I was 2 years earlier. Scared, but brave enough to try. I did not hate Marcus or Jennifer or any of them anymore. Their doubt was not really about me. It was about their own fear of taking risks. They could not imagine doing what I did because they were too afraid to try. I ran into David Brennan 6 months later at a coffee shop downtown. He looked older, less confident. We talked briefly. I should have listened to your ideas back then, he said. I thought about that. It worked out the way it needed to, I replied. No bitterness, just truth. The biggest lesson I learned was not about business or logistics or technology. It was about belief. The biggest risk was not starting a company. It was living my whole life wondering what if. People doubted me because they could not see the preparation. They did not see the 3 years of saving and learning and planning. They did not see the strategy or the sacrifice. They just saw someone they thought was crazy giving up security. I did not buy Streamline to prove anyone wrong. I bought it because it was the right business decision. Their validation was never the goal. My family's security was. The company's success was. Building something meaningful was. True success is not about the title or the building or even the money. It is watching your kids look at you with pride instead of concern. It is your wife saying she is proud of you. It is going to sleep without that constant knot of anxiety in your stomach. People will always doubt you. Let them. Their doubt does not pay your bills or build your dreams. The only person who needs to believe in you is you. And maybe one person who will hold your hand when it gets scary. For me, that was Sarah. Sometimes I still wonder what would have happened if I had listened to them. If I had stayed in that conference room, collected my safe paycheck, and died a little inside every day. If I had let their betting pool and their laughter convince me I was wrong. I guess I will never know, and I am grateful for that. So here is my question for you. Have you ever walked away from something safe to chase something uncertain? Or are you still in that conference room listening to people tell you all the reasons your dream would not work? Drop your answer in the comments. I read every single one. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe for more real stories about taking risks and proving doubters wrong. Share this with someone who needs to hear it today. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it reminds you that the people who laugh the loudest are often the ones too scared to try. Keep pushing forward wherever you are in your journey. You have got this.